Welcome to Tales from Tech Support. I'm back and I need some help from you. I'm on a mission to get 1,000 subscribers. And if you like this video, hit that subscribe button as it'll really help me hit that goal. Thanks. In our next post, OP is asked to get his sales numbers up, so he upsells his boss's father. This happened a few years ago. At the time, I was working for a local ISP in one of their shops. My job was basically tech support on the spot, i.e. data transfers from devices, opening tickets for customers for their outages and the sort. Among my duties, I had to sell phone equipment such as cases, chargers, etc. I really liked my job. The customers were somewhat nice, being that they're mostly older people who didn't know how to use their device. I enjoyed helping them, and in return, they'd stop with their pastries from local bakery. Local bakeries? Bakeries, that's the word, bakeries. I had this one boss who was a stickler for numbers. Now, he wasn't necessarily a bad boss, but his unhinged obsession with our targets was weird. The man could not comprehend that sales were down because no people were coming in. Weird guy. Anyway, one day he calls me up into his office and has this strange one-on-one talk with me on how I need to increase my sales number, even though I don't work in sales. I asked him if he has any certain idea on how I should do this, seeing as most of my clientele are older people who didn't need selfie sticks, external batteries, and stuff like that. Figure it out. Offer it to everyone. No exceptions, he said. A few weeks go by and he calls me up to his office again for what I thought would be a one-on-one again, but lo and behold, he needs a favor. His dad was in town and he would need me to stay an extra hour, paid, to transfer data from his dad's old phone to a new one because he had an important meeting to attend. Sure thing, boss. His dad comes in and the man is such a good guy. We start talking and laughing about sports and cars and other different stuff, and then it hit me. Cue my malicious compliance. I offer this man everything. I stuffed his bag with all of the goodies, and the final bill came out to about $200 instead of free. He walked out happy. My boss, on the other hand, he wasn't so cheerful. Never again was my productivity questioned. I quit a few months later. Yeah, I don't understand this myself either. I mean, you hire someone to do support or tech supporty stuff, and then you expect them to sell, not sale. He's not going on a ship. You expect him to sell stuff to clientele, and then he can't do a good job of it. And then when he does do a good job, you get upset. Yeah, sometimes some bosses are just terrible, and hopefully you guys have a good boss out there. And if you don't have a good boss, let us know in the comments below why your boss is not fun. I'd love to hear them. I want to warn you on this next one. It's a little bit long, but it's really funny. So stick around to the end and see what happens. Several years ago, I was in a role that required imaging and building systems. Thankfully, we used a commercial product that was able to network boot systems, lay down a baseline OS, install software packages, updates, configuration files, corporate settings, etc. It worked quite well after I'd spent some time with the product, and on average, a complete system build would be completed in under an hour, about 45 minutes on average. A few tweaks for the individual user were needed afterwards, but these took 5 to 10 minutes and worked nearly automatically. The desktop tech sets up the build process, clicks go, watches and waits for the system to complete while answering emails, getting coffee, whatever. They built a few dozen of these daily, and I worked with the server and system build team and had little to or nothing to do with delivering systems to actual users. That was desktop support. A few months go by and a manager for the desktop support group, we'll call her P, faces criticism that her group takes too much time to get systems to users. Sometimes this was a few days, but sometimes a week or more. I had heard complaints from her staff that they'd been forbidden to deploy any systems to any user prior to either her or her assistant having a look at the systems and reviewing them for approval. This is where the days-long delay stemmed. This, of course, made no sense whatsoever since each system had to be built using the exact same process and were identical except for the host names and serial numbers. It's like insisting every individual muffin from a bakery faced inspection before hitting the shelf. This manager didn't face criticism very well and refused to acknowledge her individual approval was a waste of time and needlessly repetitive. So, she blamed the build process for taking too long. Huh? The build process takes less than an hour and a single technician could do about 6 simultaneously. So, of course, a meeting is called to see what, if anything, can be done to speed up the build process and reduce the delays being complained about. As the meeting starts, I mentioned I brought a laptop and hooked it into a projector so we can all witness the build process and the attendees can actually watch it run while we talk. I brought a stopwatch as well. The manager goes into a diatribe about customer service, improving processes, collaboration between teams, yada yada, while people keep glancing at the projected build process, flying by without touching a thing. After 30 minutes of her rambling, I'm finally allowed to pose a question, and I ask her politely, "Excuse me, miss, but where did you get the idea that the build process was to blame? Was it the impetus of the idea that the automatic build process took too long and is the cause of these delays?" Almost on cue, the laptop going through the build rebooted to finish off the last few installations and did a system chime, showing it was restarting. She was startled and asked, "What was that?" I answered it was the laptop finishing off the build, and by the way, according to the stopwatch, we're about 33 minutes into the meeting when I started the process. She was livid and demanded to know why I was using such obscene language. Everyone in the meeting went silent and turned with quizzical faces toward the manager. I paused, not sure what the heck she was talking about, and asked me, "Excuse me, what obscene language?" She replied she wasn't going to repeat it, but was sure everyone else heard me. Everyone started looking at each other and again back at the manager. As politely as I could, "I'm not quite sure what language you're referring to, but as you can all see, the system build is pretty much done, and we're not even 40 minutes into this meeting according to the stopwatch, and every system build is built using the same process. So we could possibly consider the necessity to review every system before it goes out to staff." After some time, she relented that she reduced the reviews to a system a week to make sure that we're building the systems right, and her comment about the language seemed to fade. A day later, I'm pulled into my manager's office and I was told I was being cited for inappropriate language during the previous meeting. I'm shocked. What language can anyone tell me that I was said that was inappropriate? I told the manager and stated that her idea without using merit and using a sexual innuendo to get a reaction. What? Huh? So I asked, "What sexual innuendo?" The manager coughs and mutters. She said that you said that her idea was impotent. My jaw dropped and carefully explained exactly what I said. What was the impetus of the idea? The manager closes her eyes and shakes her head. Okay, let me just confirm this with you. Someone else at the meeting can put this to rest. A day later, my manager confirmed what I in fact asked about in the meeting and had to have a polite but rather awkward conversation with the manager on vocabulary. He asked me later to please use simpler words when dealing with my manager. You know, I find this so funny because I sometimes mix up words or use wrong words or even ask questions about them, but I'm open to having a conversation and talking about them, and I don't get on someone's case about it. But yeah, I find it amusing that someone wants to bring somebody in to get written up because they can't understand the English language. Oh man, sometimes. In our next post, the CEO almost fired me on the spot. So I work at tech support for a big German retailer, and the CEO's laptop needed some updates on several programs. We weren't allowed to remotely push those to him. It was his rule. So I go into the office, and he was already annoyed about the fact that it was going to take longer than a few seconds. So he said he's going to go on a break, and I did the thing and left. It took me about 30 seconds. A little bit later, I get a call from him, and he says that you messed my computer up. My screen's flashing, and I can't press anything. Get in here now. I had sweat pouring down my back as I took the elevator and came back in. What did you guys do? I can't do anything in here with you guys messing up every single tiny thing. I swear, I'm getting a whole new department if this happens again. I looked. The screen's flashing. I couldn't get it to reboot. My panic intensifies. I took it over to the side of the desk, and there's a remote number pad with a folder on the enter key. I pushed the folder off the thing and couldn't hide the grin on my face. This didn't happen, okay? Don't tell anyone downstairs, he said. The first thing I did was tell everyone downstairs. That was Tales from Tech Support. And if you like this content, hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to smash that like button too, as it also helps the channel out.